Brace yourselves for an enlightening interview with none other than Ember Swift. Ember is an international touring and recording artist that hails from Canada but now calls Beijing, China home. Today, we'll have a captivating conversation with Ember. Expect some stories, laughter, and a glimpse into Ember's musical journey. Stay tuned on today's Lunch with Doug. Today's Lunch with Doug podcast is produced by the Music Exerbia Project and made possible by these great businesses. The Second Edition shop located at 500 East Cherry Street in fabulous Nevada, Missouri. Karen McNair, the friendly neighborhood nutritionist, at 269-267-4644. The Harry Frog Graphics at 150 North Commercial, or call them at 417-381-1077. The Boutique Marketplace, located at 500 East Cherry Street in Nevada, Missouri. The Nevada Coin at 123 East Cherry Street in Nevada, Missouri. The Gamers Fusion, 617 East Cherry Street in Nevada, Missouri. The Craft Tea, find them on Food Truck Pub or on Facebook. The Impact Graphics at 14144 East Highway 54 or call them at 417-283-2056. The Nevada Tobacco and Liquor Store at 125 West Cherry Street on the south side of the Nevada Square. And coming soon, the Red Cherry Alley at 125 West Cherry Street in fantastic Nevada, Missouri. I'm your host, Dangerous Doug Harper. Thank you for spending your lunchtime with me. The great Ember Swift. It's cool to have you here.
Thanks so much.
The fun thing is, I'll say Taylor Swift one time and then I'll shut my mouth. But I knew Ember Swift before Taylor Swift, so there you go.
Well, I was around for many years before Taylor Swift.
Yeah, yeah. So they're like Taylor Swift. Taylor who? Are you Ember Swift? Yeah, no.
Sometimes I mess with people, but usually I'm like, no, it's just a surname, We share the same surname.
So I heard about you. I think you were a CD Baby top seller back in the day.
Back in the day, back when CD Baby was pretty new, and I was traveling all over the country and all over Canada and the US and Australia. Yeah,
So
I
you were a
remember.
top seller, and I was like, who is this? I need to listen to this person's music. So I listened to you, and I have a favorite song, and I can't remember what the name of it is. Um, but I used to
Do you
play it.
remember anything about it?
It's on the Dirty Pulse album. Is that what it's called, right?
Yeah, that's from 2006.
Yeah.
No Regrets is the first title.
Yep, that's the one. No
That's the one?
regrets. Yes, it has the horns in it.
Yeah,
Dun,
it's a
dun,
bit
dun, dun.
reggae, it's a bit
Yeah,
country.
I love it. That's
Nice.
my favorite.
Thank you.
So
I could only remember the first track. I was like, oh, what is? I
that's
mean,
the song.
2006 is a long time ago now. It's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah,
Isn't that crazy? 18
yeah.
years ago.
But I've been kind of watching your career the whole time, like kind of following along, and I'm like, I was looking for artists that I used to, follow and stuff, and I was like, who's still out there doing it? Man, I was like, she's still
Yeah, I think
rocking.
a lot of people are still out there. It's just that we get kind of buried um in the in the new method, like in the new way of spreading music, in the algorithm maze. We get buried. Because, if you don't get enough listeners, then you don't get recommended. And then if you don't get recommended, then you don't get enough listeners. So it's like,
Mhm.
ah,
Oh
which
yeah,
one?
and you'll put in like, I'll go see a show, and I'll know that there's a group that they'll say, okay, they're on Spotify, so I know they're on Spotify. So I put it in there, I type their name in, and then it'll say something like Ariana Grande, and I'm like, what? I was like, did I spell it wrong? So I do it again. I'm like, it's correct. And then Michael Jackson comes up, and then I'm like, I know I spelled it right. I'll put it in the third time, and finally their song will come up. I'm
That's the
like, they,
thing. And that's just the recommendations, right? But then think about all the playlists that get made just through an AI, and also all the content providers like yourself who are looking for material, they rely on those AI recommendations. And so, slowly but surely, artists who used to use a different method to get their music out get buried by not being in the top of those algorithms. I mean, there are hacks apparently. I should look into those hacks. I never have. I'm really old school. I realize that. So, yeah, I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it for a lot of different reasons than I was doing it back then. I'm doing music and actually just about to go into the studio for my 14th album. Like
Oh man.
14.
Wow.
Um, but I'm doing it because I will always and forever be a songwriter. And I have 16 new songs.
Yeah.
Actually 13 originals, but then one re-release and then two covers that I'd really like to do. So that's 16 options for material to release into the world. I'm like, well, I'm not, I'm doing it for the love of music, and I get paid to do it over here. I'm still working,
Yeah.
but I know that I'll never beat this new AI algorithm world, this battle. I'll never win.
Yeah.
So I just do it for those who potentially remember me, like yourself, or for those who might stumble upon it for some strange reason, because it certainly won't present itself in their path, but maybe one day something will hit. Who knows? I'll just keep doing it.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. No.
I agree.
That's the well, Derek is his name. Was his name Derek Sivers? Was it the guy
Oh
that did
yeah, for the
the
CD
CD
baby guy,
Baby?
right?
Yeah, he writes books like he lives in I think he's in China too now. And he just like basically lives doing whatever and he writes these books and these articles and it's really he's really like I don't know, he's like Yoda now.
Yeah, yeah, he gave up CD baby. I remember that. And I think he did come to China actually, because he wrote to me at one point. Not that we knew each other personally, but he wrote
Yeah,
to me for some China advice because he had, a few
yeah.
contacts in China. But yeah, no, I haven't heard from him since. I'm not sure where he is. But yeah, I think when it comes to a long career in the arts of any kind, whether you're a writer or you're a musician or whatever, painter, the trick to a long career is really getting to the source of why you do it. And for it to cease, like the young people do it for fame or for money, right?
Hmm.
But for it to cease being about anything related to celebrity or wealth. And once you get to that stage, that is maybe the Yoda stage of
Hmm.
doing
Yeah,
creative work, because then you do it for the joy, you do it for the communication benefits, the chance to communicate or to be the tool of communication for something. And you do it just because it's a compulsion or a passion or a fixation. You must,
yeah,
and uh, and then whatever happens, the results of the act of doing it becomes irrelevant.
yeah.
That's
It just
where I'm
must
at
be
in my
done.
career.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Now you were
Yeah.
on a okay, so you were on this show and it might have been a year ago. I just discovered the video recently, but it was a world like talent thing there in China, and it
Oh,
looked
are
like
you talking about the Mamma Mia shows?
mm, I'm not sure exactly what it was. But
I'm
you
not sure either.
you
I'm on a lot
performed.
of TV shows. I've done a lot of Chinese
Yeah,
TV
I
shows.
mean, it looked like a pretty big show. It was like the it looked like I said a pretty upscale show. It was like
Was
a
I just doing a song
you
with
did a
my
song.
guitarist?
Yep, yep, just you and the guitarist, and then they
Ah,
talked to you.
yes, that was last year. That was
Okay,
probably my most recent TV thing. Um,
okay.
Second most recent. Yeah. Yeah, that was just a variety show, but it was specifically for foreigners who live in China who have a China story. So each foreigner could perform in some way. So there was an opera singer and there were a few musicians and songwriters, and then there were uh, people who do more behind the scenes art. Like there was a sculptor, but then he brought examples of his sculpting, and I think it's pretty cool that they do that. But really, the point was not the art; it was the foreigner who has something good to say about China.
Yeah,
So, we were saying we love China. It's true. I do love China. There's lots of things I love about it.
yeah. Basically, well, and I was reading the captions, and you were basically saying, it sounded like you were, originally you maybe were gonna go back, but now you've just, it's kind of home for you now, right?
Yeah, I've been here for 15 years and I never planned to stay for a long period of time. Um, Like I came here, the first time I came here was in 2007 as a visitor, and then I came back 3 times in the same calendar year. And by the third time, uh, I was sure that I had to have some sort of deeper connection with this country. And I fell in love with a Chinese guy at that time in my life. And so I sort of dropped everything for the love of both China, which was the first love, and then secondarily a Chinese person in China or a person in China, regardless of ethnicity. So, it was a big romantic story. And then that relationship ended, and I'm quite happy about that. Like, woohoo, divorce. Sometimes divorce is a very happy thing. But then I had already established my life here. I have 2 kids through that relationship. And I thought, should I leave? Isn't my first love China? So I stayed. And then now here it is 15 years later. And we have a life here, and, I have a family here. And so it's also sometimes there's like a story about a place that you arrive in that you haven't fully finished reading.
Hmm.
You don't know how it ends. And I'm not quite done the book of China, how it relates to me. So every time I think to go back, like during the pandemic, I was completely over China. I was completely over everything, I think. So was everyone. But I was sure that China maybe had come to an end, that the story was over. But then I couldn't leave. There was no way to get out and then come back in. And the price of flights were unbelievable. They were 6 times the regular market value. I couldn't afford to leave. And then I thought if I do leave, it's possible that I can't leave things here because then the borders were shut for so, so long. Um, so I was kind of trapped. And that was a gift in disguise because after the barricades lifted, the market was super ready for live music again. And I was one of the last few here. So, supply and demand. I
Yeah.
got lots of work in that first wave of the gates opening. And so, you can't beat that. I don't think the market has really recovered for live music back in the West yet, but I'm
It's
working a lot. So,
yeah, it's changed a lot. It's different for sure.
yeah.
But now I think what's happened probably more than maybe there's still a lot of musicians and they're still doing it or they've got back to doing it, but then now we've lost a lot of like venues are all or they're either changing and just maybe that's just something that's kind of regionally here. I don't know if that's a nationwide thing, but it seems like now, oh, there was 5 venues before and now there's, one. So so they're all
That's
kind of
happened in Canada too. There's a lot of venues that just couldn't survive or tried to survive and then realized that the debt was too high in the first year post-pandemic closures and just couldn't make it.
mhm.
The same thing happened here with some venues, but the difference between China and Canada and probably the US too is that the market is such a dynamic market, and the changes that are happening here are happening much faster. So since all of that pandemic chaos, lots of new venues have opened. So brand new venues are here. People just investing and saying, "Let's go for it." So that's really a good change too.
Mhm. Yeah, that's probably like I said, I don't know. I honestly, sadly enough, and that's what I was saying on the when I was putting out some promo for this, interview, I was saying, I like to get with what I'm doing here in Nevada. I'm in like a town of 8,000 in Missouri. So we're like 100 miles south of Kansas City, basically.
Okay.
Um, and so I've bought this basically it's an alley. Okay. And so I bought this alley that's going to become this outdoor music venue. Okay. And so, and when I was talking about that, I was like, I want to be, because we're probably only going to have local and regional artists for the most part playing there, but we still want to be a part of like the greater music, thing, the greater scheme of things. And um, so I'm trying to, with this, like reach out and see what else is going on. Because even me, I've fallen into this bad habit of being just here. I can't even, other than going across the border to Kansas, like recently because it's very close. I haven't been out of the state otherwise in a while, you know. So since like COVID happened, and then it's just like I'm just here now, you know, and I used to get out and about, you know, a lot, and now I'm like, oh, what's going on in the world? I'm kind of living under a rock over here. So, but
I think a lot of people have gone through that. I mean, I feel too that I didn't get back to North America for 4 years, and I still feel like I'm a little disconnected because of that isolation that happened during the pandemic. And I've heard this story from a lot of people. But that's cool that you bought an alley and that it's going to become an outdoor music venue. That's awesome. Next time I'm in the US, I'm coming.
yeah, yeah, you're on the list. You know, you'll be on tour and you'll be in my neighborhood again soon,
All
or
right.
maybe not soon, but at some point.
Yeah, I have a few US venues that have been really supportive over the years and continually ask me, when's the next time you're going to be down here? You know, down as assuming that I'm up in Canada.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like, you mean across to there? Because not in Canada anymore. Uh, but I love that they're still in touch and still willing to host me. And that is something I really want to do. I want to get back to playing in some of those rooms, more to see the people that run them,
Yeah,
because in the end, it stops being about geographic location and starts forever continually being about people.
yeah,
Like from this stage of my life, it's about revisiting cool contacts and friends, you know? And then you get to play on a stage somewhere in some in some geography that you're not usually in. That's great, but it's really about reconnecting. Human connection, right? That's my big thing
exactly.
these days. Human connection.
Well, so what's the new album going to be about? You've got this new 16 songs, you say?
Yeah, I don't know if all 16 of them will make it. You make the cut, you know? I
Yeah.
often do. You know, I write a lot, and then I have to cull back and figure out which ones are good enough. And occasionally in the next project, I might come back to an old one and say, "Huh, why did I cut that one? It's really good." But uh, I'm guessing that maybe at least 12 will make the cut. And I don't know if it'll be an album at first. It might just be a cascade of singles because that's what the young folks are
Mhm.
doing these days,
Yeah.
releasing the singles. And honestly, one of my biggest problems as an artist, which I think is an asset, but is a problem in this industry, is that I write music that's all over the map in terms of style. So I might have a song that's really rock and really heavy with like lots of distorted guitars, and there's this big drop and a slam, almost like metal. And then I have another song that's very folk blues. And
Hmm.
then I have another one that's really dance with all electronic drums and lots of keys. And this is the criticism I've received as an artist throughout my entire career is we don't know where to put you. We don't know what to do with you. What kind of genre are you? The closest that people can find is singer-songwriter because it goes by my name and I write the songs. But it's not really singer-songwriter. You think singer-songwriter, you think folk, and you think this little story that's acoustic guitar and voice and might have some swelling violins, but uh, I'm I I'm only a singer-songwriter in terms of the fact that I sing and write songs.
Hmm.
I don't think that my style is very singer-songwriter. So I don't know. The singles approach to releasing new music might solve this problem temporarily, but this new way of releasing singles in a cascade that then eventually conglomerates into an album is probably what I'll do. Um, Also, it gives me the chance to release a song around the holidays, Christmas holidays of next year, which I've never done in my entire career. I've never released a holiday single. And I also have one that would really suit Halloween. So I'm like, oh, so maybe I can start releasing in maybe May or June if I can get, and my first studio date is March. If I can get at least one fully produced by then, start releasing and then sort of release from June all the way to June of 2025. Might be good.
Yeah. So now you record in your own studio, or where do you do this recording at?
Well, to track drums, I go to a professional studio and I have one booked in Shanghai. I live in Beijing. I'm from Beijing, I almost said. I'm from Beijing. But 15 years, you can sort of say that. Um, But I have some studio connections in Shanghai, and I have some unused studio time that I really want to both use and take advantage of and create good things in. It's a great studio. So I've booked that for March, and there I will track drums and bass. But other than that, at this stage in the equipment technological, evolution of things, everything else can be tracked in a home studio or remotely.
Yeah.
So, for instance, the keys player I have worked with for years, he is from Ghana and he was in Beijing for years too and has since gone to Dubai on a hotel contract. Great player, but I will just work with him remotely. And my own vocals, I can take my time and do it in my own studio, my own acoustic guitar. I can do all of that in my own studio.
Yeah.
And, I really look forward to taking the time to do that. And then things like production things like digital drums and anything that needs like a lot of time to select sounds and to just, immerse, get into the rabbit hole of it. That stuff can happen either through a producer or through me, like
Mhm.
just here.
Yeah.
Currently my partner is also my guitarist. He's this amazing, amazing guitarist and very, very skilled musically. So in terms of arrangement, he's a big part of it. We work together and I bounce ideas off of him. But then also I like to work with a mix engineer that can have a little bit of sort of, I call it cherry on top production influence. So
Hmm.
sometimes they can take a track that I've given and just give it another layer up in terms of width or drum sound, or they're like, I heard this in there. What do you think? So I like to give my mixing engineers that level of freedom to add to the production. So in the end, the last couple of albums have been produced by me, um, my guitarist, and well, the last one was me, my guitarist, and a producer in Canada. So it's like a three-part production team. I don't have a possessive drive to be the only producer because I think there's lots of people that can contribute their talent to making the songs that much better. So I'm
Sure.
happy to work with people who have that additional talent or experience. Whereas, my songwriting happens in isolation most of the time. And then it gets to that next stage.
Sometimes it really can take things to a new place, and like you said, a really good place because you're just like, I would have never saw it from that angle, and then all of a sudden, hey, whoa, that's what I didn't know I wanted, but now I do. So yeah.
Yeah, well, a good example is from my last album, which was released in 2021. It's called, the song is called Broken Thing. The album is called Mid-March Meltdown, which, by the way, has nothing to do with the pandemic. It was about a previous meltdown about a totally different topic.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of wondered
but
what that meant. I saw that title and I was like, what does this mean? But
yeah,
it gets your
definitely not about the pandemic, which many people assumed it was about because the pandemic really hit in March of 2020 in
yeah,
North America,
yeah.
but it had hit in January of 2020 in North America. In China.
Oh,
So if you really think of where I was situated, definitely wasn't pandemic related. Uh, but we all have meltdowns about certain things, and this was a very complex meltdown that resulted in 13 songs. Um, Now the song I wanted to reference is a song called Broken Thing, which has a video as well. It's one of the three songs from the album that I did a music video for. And then when I took that to my producer, Tim Abraham in Canada, who I worked with just for this album, it was my first experience working with him. And he's super busy now, so it might have been my last, but he was fantastic. Tim heard that song, which was really uh, a gentle, lilting, a little bit singer-songwriter in terms of style. Um, Definitely like a crooner. It was a crooning song.
mhm.
And he said, "Oh, this song could have a cool electronic drum approach." And it had organic drums. And then he broke it up The song is called Broken Thing. So he broke up all of the samples in these little chunks where he took part of the drums and took part of electronic drums and then took out the bass and then made a spot here and created this almost like if you had thrown a bunch of rocks at the song and all the places where the rocks hit created holes. That's audio in terms of audio effect. That's kind of what he did, which would be random, right? If you took a handful of gravel, for instance, and threw it at something, it would create these random nicks and juts into whatever physical thing it is. Well, audio wise, that's what he did. And the effect was amazing. But the first time I heard it, I thought, what did he do? What's wrong with it?
Hmm.
And as I listened, this is perfect. That's exactly what this song needed. And it's forever made this song into, a track that will never actually be as good as the recording. Now that we do it live, it's a totally different thing. But the
Yeah.
recording took it to a whole new level, and I really adore what he did.
And that's the one
And
that
that's an
has,
example of him being a producer that added that layer.
it had the guitar in the video that kind of bends. It looks like it breaks the guitar. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
We
that
that
was really cool.
The video also modeled the brokenness of the audio. So lots of the video is actually done by my guitarist and partner, Gabriel Baudouin, who had never done a video before. And he just dove into Final Cut Pro and
Huh.
did this
Yeah,
amazing
it's
thing.
really cool. It's really cool. You would never guess that was his first project for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you would think that he was a seriously experienced videographer or
Yeah.
director or something. Yeah, it was impressive. I mean, it took a long time, but things that are good take time.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it. It caught me when I was watching it. I was like, what? What just happened? Kind of the first time you see it, you're just like, what? What's going on? That was cool. That was really
Yeah. I'm
so.
glad you've seen it.
I don't know when this video came out either, but I saw a video where you had somebody playing the guitar. They were actually fiddle later, but they were playing a guitar with a bow, and that was really awesome.
Hmm.
I was like, this is cool. Is that your still your current lineup? Is that your band?
Not at all. That was my North America band. The person who was playing a guitar with a bow, her name is Lyndall Montgomery, and I used to work with her. I worked with her for over 10 years, 13, I think. But then I moved to China and, we stopped working together. Well, actually, that song Peak, it's P-E-K with a line over the E, like a long
Uh,
vowel sign over the E. That song is still active in my on my stage show. It's one of the oldest songs because it was released originally in 2000. And so, that's 24 years ago. It's
wow.
crazy to me. Sometimes my brain just goes 24
Yeah.
years. Oh,
Yeah.
uh, but it was active. I maybe wrote that song in 98, maybe, or 99. And so I never thought that song, I never imagined that a song would continue in circulation, but that one is still active. So I think that might be why it gets recommended because people still
Yeah.
look it up. It's a really unique song in my set list because it has no lyrics. And I always dedicate that song to the hope for peace. And there's always a new reason for that dedication, like
Sure.
currently the war in the Middle East and previously and still currently what's happening in the Ukraine. So, I mean, there's always a reason. There's always something that is on people's minds and makes everyone pause for a minute and go, oh yeah, we do want the future to be peaceful.
Hmm.
And that song just works as a call for peace.
Hmm.
That might be why it's recommended. But I actually just got a really good video of it with my current band, which are a bunch of people from all over the world. And I also have multiple players. So, for instance, I have a bass player from Cuba and a bass player from China, both in Beijing. And then another bass player in Shanghai that I work with occasionally for out of town shows who is from Ghana. That's the second player I've worked with from Ghana. My previous keyboard player is from Ghana. Also, previous keyboard player is from Israel. And he's coming back and forth every once in a while. So I might still get to work with him. But then my current most regular keyboardist or piano player is from France. And then I have a backup guitarist from France, and my partner, my main guitarist, he's from Quebec, Canada. And then I work with an erhu player, which is a traditional Chinese instrument, who I've worked with for 15 years, really, maybe 14. Amazing Chinese woman who plays this. It's like a two-stringed fiddle or violin. Um, Really cool sound. So she comes on stage with us every once in a while. And drummers, I have a guy from the Congo, and I have another guy from Cuba, and he's not in Beijing, but I sometimes fly him in. He lives in Guangzhou, and then a Chinese guy as well. So all of those different players, who's available, who can do it, who's more suitable for which show? Because sometimes I do a show that's a jazz show, so I'll call my more jazzy players, and then and it's all jazz originals, but it's still jazz music, so I get the more jazz capable players. And then sometimes I do more of a rock pop show, so I'll call the players who are more able to do rock and pop. So it really depends. My band has been loose for years because I'm not touring full time. When you're touring full time, you have a set group of players because they're with you. But if you're touring on and off or going out and then coming back and then going out and coming back, you can work with divergent players, right? People from all different areas, all different backgrounds, both culturally and musically. So, yeah.
I assume this is all you do. This is your job, music, or do you do something else? What else do you do in life?
Um, well, because I have two kids, I can't be out full time traveling. So I do a couple of other things. Like I have this home studio, which I do my own music in, but I also do a voiceover sideline. I have a company here, and I work with a few different voice actors, and I have lots of clients over the years. So that means that some of that recording work is musical. Some of it I have to write songs for hire, like
Sure.
um, education based or something, kids songs, and some of it's singing. But then the lion's share of it is talking, like speaking, dialogues, scripts that are designed to help people learn English. And this is very lucrative sideline. It actually saved my life and kept my children fed during the pandemic because it all can happen inside a home, right?
Mm-hmm.
And or inside a home studio, and you don't have to have contact with anyone. So that's one sideline, and secondarily, I have two gigs once a week each, so 2 days a week. One at one school where I teach music creation and music production, and one at another school where I teach vocals and one-on-one vocal training at an elite music school here in Beijing. And both of those teaching days have also been really helpful in connecting me to a world of musicians that I normally wouldn't have been connected to, and an extended audience. So now when I play big shows that need to sell lots of tickets, I tell all of my education contacts. It's great. It's very helpful. Not to say that my fans don't come out to those shows, like my music fans, but it's nice to get some students coming out too. But that's a slippery slope. I know a lot of musicians who, if they've been doing music for 20 plus years, like I have, it's very easy to fall into this habit of teaching, but then teaching more and more and more. And so professional musicians eventually end up being professional teachers who only gig once in a while. And that's like my worst nightmare. I really don't want that. As much as I can easily find work teaching, and of course, you think that a Westerner would be teaching English here in China. That's my most common question when I go back to Canada. They're like, "Oh, do you teach English?" No. I could easily get hired to teach English for 14 hours a day and get paid premium wage because, of course, native English speakers are really well compensated here. But I could also get paid very well to teach full-time music of any kind, either music creation, songwriting, singing, guitar. But I really don't want that life. I want music to be about my creation and about performance. So I have to keep it at a dull roar. And I'm regularly declining teaching work,
Mm-hmm.
which is a shame to say out loud because so many people are struggling for jobs back in the West right now. So when I say like, I have to turn down jobs all the time, they're like, shut up. Like, come here,
Yeah.
resettle. sometimes, occasionally, I get asked to do some weird things, which I like to take. So I'll get asked to do like an MC job where I have to MC an event. And I speak both languages, right? So I can manage that. Or I get asked to do an acting job, and I sometimes take them because they're kind of fun and different.
Hmm.
In October, I did this weird live performance where I was one of a team of five foreigners, and each one had to sing the same song, but just a portion of it in their native language. But I was hired to do the French because I also speak French as a Canadian,
Sure.
which is very funny because there's an American guy hired to do an American black guy, of course, because I was the white foreigner from North America or Europe. I was supposed
Mhm.
to be from Europe. And I was hired to sing the French verse. He was doing the American English
Mhm.
verse. And there was a Russian girl, there was a Korean girl, and there was a Spanish guy who did just honestly, he just did the the clave. Like he didn't even sing in Spanish. He just was hired to wear a Spanish hat and do the percussion. It's a weird job, but it paid really well. And I thought, hey, this is strange. Okay. I didn't have any gigs booked, so I did it. So that's the cool thing about China is you get these weird opportunities that you never would get in the West. And, once it was over, it's not a continuing job. It was a big corporation that did a big event, and that song was part of the event. And they wanted to show their diversity. So
That's cool. That's
it's
cool.
weird.
So I was thinking I missed this. I should have asked this question long ago. What really brought you to China in the first place? You were talking, it seemed like you kind of wanted to. Yeah, it was something you were kind of interested in, but you saw that there could be some opportunity for you, and that's kind of maybe what you went for in the first place.
Yeah, that's a common misunderstanding, actually, that people thought, oh, it's a huge market. There's so many people. She must have gone to China to promote her music and get more followers or get more listeners or just develop her music in Asia. That's not true. I went to university for my undergraduate degree was for East Asian studies. So at first I went to university for languages because I was really into language. And then I discovered Mandarin and fell in love with the language. Just completely got immersed, got obsessed with the language because it's amazing. It's a beautiful language. It embodies visual art, music, and history, like all in its characters alone. Not to mention the tonal part of the language is like singing while speaking, all those things. And I could talk long, long, and maybe to the point of boring you about how amazing Chinese language is. And then I graduated from university and made a decision that I thought I was at a crossroads. Either I pursue my music dream or I pursue my Asia dream, my Chinese language obsession. And I was, I was in my early 20s and I thought, oh, I have to choose one. Little did I know that it's not always black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But I chose my music dream, and then I was on the road as a touring artist. That's when you heard about my music. And then I was working constantly as a touring artist, so busy. At the height of that decade, I was doing 200 shows a year in Canada, the US, and Australia, and some Pacific Alliance islands. I still hadn't made it to Europe. I was so busy. And I decided finally at around year 9 of that I was going to take a break. And I planned it all, a sabbatical, 3 months in Asia, because it was my dream destination. And no one knew this about me. It was this sort of quiet story about my educational past. So I came to China, and when I first came, I was only here as a refresher language student because I'd pretty much forgotten a lot of the Mandarin I had learned. And I just thought that I came back home. It felt resonant, felt like a past life experience, like everything sort of vibrated, everything felt right. And then I returned that same calendar year, second time. And during that second visit, I met and fell in love with my ex husband. Then I came a third time. And in that third visit, I thought, what am I doing with my life? Like I clearly have this successful career in North America, but I'm meant to be here. So I made a decision after that third visit to just give up my career. And I actually thought that maybe I would restart doing something else. But again, that's the naivete of youth because I can't stop the music in my life. It's just who I am. It's my part of my skin, I guess. So I just continued to make music here and restarted my career with a few like return tours back to the West. Um, and then, started a family and just my life continued from there. And you've heard since then, I,
Yeah.
fell in love, had a pretty long relationship with my ex-husband, got divorced, decided to stay, now have a new relationship, and I'm still doing music. And that's the thing. I think that China not only resonated with me as as in terms of my spirit. There's something about China that I was supposed to connect with. I learned that in university and then I put it aside, and then I really learned it when I came here, that it really felt like the place for me. The language, of course, feels really right in my mouth when I speak it. And I'm still learning Mandarin. It's one of those languages you never stop learning. But more than that, I realized when I came here that I could also be a musician that lives in China. I could have a China dream at the same time as a music dream. And so, that's when I grew up. That was the moment I got mature. And now, it's facilitated my music making in ways that I think the West might not have done. The opportunities that have been given to me here as a foreigner who speaks and sings in other languages besides Mandarin. But I can conduct my shows in Mandarin, so I can engage the audience. I can greet the audience and introduce the songs in Chinese, and I can negotiate the shows with the producers in Chinese, etc. All of that has made it possible for me to have probably a better career here, a more frequent performance roster, maybe the opportunity to work with musicians that I never would have come across, because this is a global city and it's a magnet. It brings people from all over the world. So I probably never would have had the chance to work with so many African players, for instance. And I've worked with people from all over Africa. It's across the years, the list of countries the musicians have come from is really long. So I really credit this coming to China with expanding my career rather than what I originally thought was that it was an either or. Come to China, give up my career. It didn't work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you toured in like Australia as well though, right?
Yeah, I did. I've toured
And
9 different tours in Australia, but the last one was in 2010. And it was a really successful market for me. I met a lot of amazing people and played some incredible shows alongside of artists that I really, that are, much bigger artists than I ever was and may ever and probably ever will be. It was a chance to kind of experience music at a different career level. Australia gave me that. But then when I came to China, after I came to China, my music changed a little and my band changed. The last tour I did in Australia was with my Lentic project, my 2009 album, which is a mixture of Chinese instrumentation and some Chinese lyrics. And it was really talking about the merge of East and West and this communication between East and West. It didn't go over very well in Australia. The fans didn't like it as much as my previous work. And after that, I had my kids, and so I haven't returned. Could I get back there and travel there again? I applied to some festivals a couple years ago, but then uh, lots of issues with the pandemic here. I couldn't go. I don't know. I might get back to Australia one day. I have some dear friends there, so that's the motivation to get back and see them.
where have you not played that you want to go to?
Great question. I have played in Europe. In 2017, I did a tour. 2017, 18, and 19, I did 3 tours in Europe. And as much as I'd like to say I've been to Europe, I haven't been to everywhere in Europe. So I'd like to get back to where I went and experience some new places in Europe, but they were all really low level, like just trying to get through the door of venues kind of thing, because I had no background, no history in Europe. So, yes, I'd like to get back to Europe, but to explore more parts of it. I've never been to South America and I've never been to Africa. Those are two parts of the world that I'd really, really love to see, even if it's just as a tourist. I'd be more than willing to travel there. But, we'll see. My kids are now age 12 and age 10. So I'm still full time momming, you know? So those kinds of dreams of doing more traveling might happen in a decade. And that's okay. My hair will be more white than it is now, but I'll still be making music and hopefully able to charm an audience,
Have
maybe
you
slightly older audience. It's okay.
have you
No
ever
worries.
thought of the Arlo Guthrie, just bring the kids into the band kind of thing?
Yeah, maybe. My son's got great rhythm. He studied some drums. He's the 10-year-old. But he hasn't pursued any other instruments since then. But I'm pretty sure that as he gets older, he will be able, more than able to do any instrument that he chooses. And my daughter is a kick-ass singer. She's really good. She's better than I was at age 12. She just turned 12. She's got amazing soul, great control, and really wonderful phrasing that's natural. So that's hard to teach. I know because I've done vocal coaching. So I'm quite excited to see where that takes her. Do you have kids?
hmm Yeah, I
How
got a
old are they?
daughter that's almost 12, and my son will be turning 10 in March.
That's like almost the exact same thing. My son just turned 10 in December, and my daughter just turned 12 on January 2nd.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow, we're at a similar trajectory.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people here in China, I mean, there's a different method of raising kids and a different approach to developing talents. And I find a lot of people here think it's crazy that as a musician, I haven't pushed my kids to be more interested in music or more studious about music. My daughter did about a year of piano lessons, but she really hated it and it was it was a constant fight. So now she can piece together her own chords and I'm like, "Okay, if you really don't want to take lessons anymore, don't." And some people think here that I'm way too soft on the kids. But I think it's better. I would rather them follow it at their own rate, at their own pace. And if they want to pursue excellence in anything, not just music, then they should understand that it takes time and devotion and passion and, commitment, discipline. And I think it will be something that they'll come to, whatever it is they want to pursue. They'll come to that understanding that it requires all those things at a slightly more mature age. But until then, I don't want to be the enforcer, like
hmm
practice, time
Yeah.
for lessons, practice. It takes the joy out of it.
Yeah, it'll make some, then they might not like it then as much as
Yeah.
if they chose it on their own. Yeah, I think so. Anybody that's foreign that's music, it seems like they're much more meticulous about it, and it's much more like they sight read like it's nothing to them. I'm just like, how do you do that? Like, and they're just like virtuoso, so they're definitely, I don't know what they do over there. They're just more studious, I guess.
Well, I think it's approached as more of an academic necessity. Um, but that has a flip side too. So my vocal coaching, my vocal teaching job, the once a week thing that I do at that elite music school, it's uh it's with a bunch of kids who um want to be singers. And some have studied intensely, so they are very good at the technical side. They can tell me they can sing a minor scale and they can create a diminished chord with their voice, etc. They can do that stuff. But can they really step into a song and feel it? This is something that takes a lot of um, not just coaching, but encouraging and a reset on their philosophy. Because up until now, some of these kids have done music for so long with very with a very officious hand over them. Either it's their parent or their teacher saying, learn, learn, learn. You must learn. But it takes it into a mental or cerebral place, and it's not part of their body. It's not part of their spirit. So to get them to really feel a song is one of their hard, it's the biggest obstacle.
Mhm.
So, what's the flip of that? Maybe in the future my kid won't my singing daughter won't be able to sing a diminished chord with her voice, but she will already feel the music because everything she does vocally is about how she feels about it. So, six of one.
Yeah. Wow. That was deep.
Sorry. It's
Yeah.
morning. I'm always more
This
philosophical in the
this is
morning.
this is a very deep interview. Definitely. Definitely. But good. Good stuff. Good stuff. So, new music's coming.
Yeah, new music's coming.
14th album. That's amazing. Now you got to do, after this, you'll have to do at least one more to 15. That seems like that's, I don't know, something about 15. So, how many more do you think you'll do? I mean, how often
I
do
don't
you do an
know.
album these days?
I'll just keep writing songs, and when the inspiration flow stops, when it dries up, then I guess I'll stop releasing
Yeah.
music. But I think it's actually I had to actually push myself to get this going because I have so many new songs and I'm always writing new songs, and I've I have to really be in, how do I verbalize it? I don't really care about releasing them. let's be let's be clear. I don't really care anymore about the industry, about the money side of it, about the accolades that comes with a song that lots of people like. I don't apply for contests. I don't care. I just care about making good music and then performing it. I care about the performance side. So if the song reaches an audience, a live audience, and they like it, and people come up to me and say, "Oh, I love that song. Which album is it on? Or where can I find it online?" And I say, "Oh, it hasn't been recorded yet." This tells me that it should be recorded. That's the reason. The impetus is to get it so that people can hear it when they're not at my live concert, to get it out there. But the rest of it, all the minutia that goes along with releasing an album, like having to get it up on all these platforms and the advance, apparently you're supposed to have about 6 months of lead time before an album is actually released, but you should have it finished and then you have 6 months of promotional time now. I don't know, there's these new rules. I don't care about that stuff. I'm going to have to hire somebody to do it all for me because I have lost complete interest in the way that all of these new platforms work and how to get it out there. I don't care. I just want it to be done and a record of the creation, and wherever it goes after that, it's its own being, you know?
Mhm.
So that's actually something I'm struggling with is like the need to get it out there. I have to actually push myself because as far as I'm concerned, the song is done and I've done my job. You know, they're not all done. Some of them are still unfinished, but
Mhm.
the point is my job is to create the arrangement, get it on stage, perform it for the audience. Um, yeah, it'll be an interesting path. I'm already looking at services that can provide the promotion and marketing side that normally in my past career I did all myself or with my own internal team. And now I'm giving it away. Like, make this reach people. That's kind of what I'm going to say. And if they can, they can. And if they can't, they can't. Whatever. I'm also not going to blame them for how many likes or followers it garners. I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah. I don't think there's a guarantee on any of it for sure. But I did
Yeah.
I did meet someone from Nashville that was fantastic at Streaming World. I'll send you their contact. They're pretty awesome.
And they offer that service.
Yeah, they basically get you onto like playlists and get you played, get you plays, numbers. And they're really good at it.
please send me that contact. That is the kind of person that I really need. And I need like 10 of them.
Yeah. You'll have to choreograph your dance for the TikTok so we can do the TikTok dance to your music. That's where it's
Hilarious.
at nowadays.
You are going to film that. You are going to do the dancing. I want to
Ah,
see you dancing.
yeah. Yeah.
We should do that with our kids though, because that is exactly what they're into, right?
Uh,
They totally want to dance on TikTok, and it would be very funny to
yeah.
do that as the parent with the two kids.
Yeah. I actually do a lot of TikTok because it is for younger connecting with younger people, it is like where's that? So I I work at a college and also and uh the students like are much more approachable to me once they know like they see your TikTok, they know who you are kind of, and it's just I don't know. I've had a good way to connect with them since the TikTok, since they discovered that. Before they were like a little standoffish at first. They don't know you and stuff. So,
I have the Chinese version. Like Chinese TikTok is called Douyin, and with one phone number, you can only open one or the other, like a Western or Chinese. And so I opened a Chinese one, but I don't have an actual Western TikTok.
mhm.
So that should change with these new singles. Should
Yeah.
change.
Well, your music's probably available. I didn't even look. It's probably on there.
Oh, I'm
Your
sure. I'm
songs will
sure. And
be.
maybe even because a lot of the North American TikToks that are very popular get brought over here and other people just post them, just spread them around. So I'm sure that some of my Chinese stuff is in there.
I'll make a video with your song in it and put it on there. So,
Cool.
but I'm not gonna dance.
I tell you, I want you to dance. Come
Okay.
on.
Yeah. Okay. I've got some good students that can really dance, so they're good at it. They choreograph and stuff. They know how to do this. So I don't.
Yeah, it's a whole other world. I'm not ready for it. Might never be ready.
Hmm. No, I think everybody kind of comes to that at some point. A few years ago, like my dad, I remember him talking about like how things are so different and he doesn't like the way things are. And I was thinking back then, I'll like, like, well, he's just an old guy, right? Well, I've had that same experience where I'm like, oh man, I just don't like the way things are going, but things are happening way faster than they were back then. We're getting like, 200 to his one, and I'm thinking, oh man. So, and I'm just like, sometimes you're just like, let's just, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to do it the old way, whether it works or not.
Yeah, I think that's okay too. There's enough, the way that you're doing the magazine, for instance, with just a paper version and keeping it small. I mean, of course you'd like more subscribers, but the fact that there are 600 is pretty amazing. And there is a market for the old school ways of doing things. It's out there. People want something in their hands. They miss magazines.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I commend what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm
And
all for
that's
it.
the thing. It's like, it's kind of like you. It's just something that I've done and I like to do it. It's like my kind of my brand thing. We had the radio show when the people that know what it is, know what it is. People that don't. Some people are really impressed with 600, like the regional and local people are like, wow, that's huge. But then you talk to like some of the bigger companies and they're like, well, we don't usually advertise until they've got like 5,000 subscribers, so then I'll talk to them. They're really interested in what I'm doing, but they don't really advertise. So
It's okay because we don't do it for for the money,
yeah.
right? What's your work besides doing the magazine?
I work for Cotty College. It is a all women's college here in Nevada, which is really, really awesome for Nevada because Nevada is like little bitty, kind of backwoodsy almost, and then you got this
Mhm.
like international college. So like
Oh,
it's it has slowed down a little bit after the pandemic because travel was hard, but I have um people from all I think they had 27 countries or something like that. And so some of the countries
what
don't
do you teach?
well, I'm not actually a teacher. I'm actually a staff. I'm the assistant technical director at the theater. So I'm in the theater department.
Cool. So you like you're the one who makes sure that everybody has sound and the mics are working and that the 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 theater situation is
I,
happening.
I do a lot of that. I help them build sets for the play, and I do a lot of stuff. But yeah, really they needed somebody that was a sound kind of specialty in that, and so yeah, it's really cool. Like this coming up on the 27th, we're gonna have Step Africa. They're gonna come through, and they'll be like they're kind of like Stomp, but they're not exactly. So it's a dance company, but that'll be really cool. They've actually been here before, and they're fantastic.
Nice.
So
That's
we get a
great.
lot of cool. So for a little town like Nevada to have something like that, I mean, it's just like it's unheard of, really. Like there would
Yeah.
be stuff, and we get cool people like you too. Maybe we can get you sometime to come play the college. That would be cool.
That would be great. Of course, I
So
come with my band. That would be
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, we had Ukrainian dancers in a while back. Now, of course, they're from Boston actually, but they're Ukrainians that are in Boston, but they were great. It was really awesome. I mean, I thought I'd like it, like I thought, oh, this would be cool, because I like all the dance stuff. It's always cool, but it was just a really good show.
Were
Uh,
they wearing the traditional um,
yes,
dresses and like spinning and the
all of
dress
them.
goes in a circle and
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, they did all of the traditional dances, and they would tell a little bit about them. And what they had was they had like, well, they would go out, they had four dancers, and they would go off stage and they would change costumes in between each of the songs. Well, they had
Mhm.
the guy that was kind of like telling about the next dance and stuff. Well, he played guitar, and then his wife played like it was kind I don't know what the actual name of the instrument was, but it was kind of like it was like a banjo ukulele kind of combination instrument. And
Okay.
I think he called it a mandolin on the when he asked for the setup for it, but it wasn't really a mandolin. It had another name. But anyway, they would play songs and he would sing and they would play, and it was really awesome. So they do their little song, and then he'd talk about what was going to happen, and then they would go off stage, and then they would have like recorded music would come on, and then the dancers would do the dance, and then they would come back out and they would play their little songs and tell the
That's a
stories.
good setup
It
to
was
have music and dance interchangeable. That's
Yeah, it
great.
was really, really cool. And there was a couple instances where they were all on stage together, and there was a couple instances where they had backtracks and they played along with it. So it was kind of build up through the show. It was really cool.
Okay.
And
Neat.
so we had that, and then we had some well, we have some sometimes we'll have shows that are their actor kind of stuff come in. So we have these ones that do um they were like it was based on people from that had been in the war. It was Real Letters Home is what it was called. So it was real
Mhm.
letters that these soldiers had written back to their like family back home, and then these actors portrayed these people. So they would say who they were. It would come up on the screen behind them, and they would tell these stories. And it was, some of them were comedic, some of them were really, sad. They were lonely and things. And
Mhm.
it was real. And then occasionally you would have one of them, they would have the mother would respond. They would have the mother's letter back to her kid. And they would go back
Okay.
and forth. It was a good one. But so
It sounds amazing. Sounds like the college really does some really cool curating of performance. That's really great.
yeah, it's really awesome. And then of course we have our own dance company, and we have our own, theater group, and then we have a band, that's like wind and jazz band. So they do their own
Mhm.
concerts there too. And then we'll have like, well, we had a student. This is one of my favorite stories. We have a student because now we went to a 4 year where they can graduate as a theater major in four years. Didn't used to be able to do that. And in fact, it used to just be a 2 year school. But so now we have this student. She wants to be a rock star. That's her, what she really wants to do. So we try to enable them, and being that we're such a, I mean, there's only like 400 students, so it's like a small school, but it's like an Ivy League school, but 400 students. Okay, so we enable her, so she gets to put on a rock show. Basically, she did one, and she's going to do another one, and it was really cool. I mean, so we
And she had
threw
to
up.
hire a band and everything?
Yeah, she hired a band, and she had some friends. she's from Arkansas, so she had some friends down there that she got them together, pulled them out of actually pulled some guys out of a really good band to form her own, and then they ended up liking the project so much they're going to stay with her. They're
Oh,
still doing their other band too, but I was like, wow, that's cool. And they were just phenomenal. It was awesome. So it was just like this. She did great. She's really awesome. So, now she's got video files, and I caught some audio on the soundboard. So she's got some live recordings from it, and it's cool. So,
that's
and then
cool. Does
there's
she have any online presence? Like, what's her name?
her name is, or well, she goes by Taylor Deranged. That's her thing. But
Derange, like
yeah,
Derange.
I think it's spelled with a Y. Like it's a different spelling. But I don't know that she has any like recordings up. Like I made a video, like a TikTok thing for her. That's got a piece of the live cut, but they're working on some songs. And she did have one. She did a cover recording of a cover. They did kind of their own version of it that she did have at the studio, but I don't know that she's released that formally or anything. And she works right now. She's working at the Walmart amphitheater, like on the weekends when she's not doing stuff up here. She goes down to it's in, like I said, not far from here. It's like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours across the border to Arkansas, and it's a big amphitheater. So she's like meeting like Megadeth. She's like, oh, Megadeth, and she did wigs. She's real good at wigs. She did wigs for Tina Turner the other day. So
Oh, wow.
she's got her hand in some good stuff down there. So I was like, well, Taylor, you've made it now. You did a wig for Tina Turner. Like you don't your life can be done. You're fine.
I love it. That's a really cool thing to write on a resume.
Yeah, I did wigs for Tina Turner, but it was for Tina Turner and her whole like all of her dancers and everything. She did a whole show for 'em. So that's
Wow.
pretty cool. But she is really excellent at the wig. She's won some awards. In fact, she's at contest right now up in Iowa. The several of the students and they went up there. So
And she spells her it's Taylor Dyarange.
her Facebook page is spelled Derayangged.
Well, I am gonna look her up because it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Taylor Deranged.
Talking with the one and only Ember Swift. That is your real name, or is that a stage name?
It's my real name.
Real
It's my
name.
real name. I always prove it by explaining that my sister's name is Temple Swift, and that like proves it because my parents wanted two original names. Although there's more and more Embers out there,
Yeah.
I've noticed, younger than me,
Yeah.
but it seems to have caught on. Maybe because of the whole what is that? Elements. There was the movie Elements. Do you remember
Mm-hmm.
that came out? And
Yeah.
the lead in that, her name was Ember.
Yep.
But yeah, it's my name.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it's Ember, and that's why it caught on. But
Ah, nice.
so yeah. Okay, so that's your real name. And then we got 14 albums. We got a new album coming out. You've been in a documentary or two, I think.
I was in the what was it called? It was the Michael Moore documentary was that was released a couple of years ago. It was called
That's big. You were in his movie?
Yeah, it wasn't a recent interview, but I happened to be the band at the festival where he was filming for the documentary. And so some of the footage it's from 2001, that footage. But yeah, I was in that. And I actually got lots of feedback, people writing to me saying, "Hey, I saw you in Michael Moore's new documentary." And I was like, "Really?" No, I had remembered being asked for permission to use that footage, but I didn't understand what it was exactly for that I was giving permission to. And so it's like, "Oh, that's what that was."
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, lots of documentaries, lots of video and I don't share as much as I should on Facebook and Instagram, but I have a lot of footage from here in China that's out on my social media in Asia.
Very cool. What's the social media in over there? That's different that we don't have here. You
Well, it's the TikTok equivalent is Douyin, and then the Twitter equivalent is something called Weibo. And then the Facebook equivalent is something called, well, Facebook, it's like a mixture of Facebook and um, WhatsApp, and it's called WeChat or 微信. And the English version is WeChat. And actually, it's way more advanced than WhatsApp. And it's not just like a text app. It's not just a video calling app. It's also like it has a wall like Facebook does, and you can have a profile, and you can have a channel, and you can like YouTube has, and post all your videos on that channel. And it also has like the Douyin scrolling for short videos. It has all that. And it's a payment portal, so you use it as your money source. So you can have like digital money there. And everyone here pretty much uses WeChat as their wallet.
Hmm.
So it's sort of this huge, huge, huge thing that does everything. Um, and then there's a lot of other smaller ones um, that are similar to like the way, I guess the way Instagram works, but they're smaller, um, but they're just as popular. Like, you know how YouTube has the shorts?
Hmm.
Well, these ones have just shorts, similar to what Instagram does. One is called Bilibili, and one is called 小红书, which means little red book. Um, and those two are super popular. And so, yeah, I can just, if I were to release something on every single platform where I have a profile, it would be crazy. It would take too much time. So I don't. I put out the major stuff mostly on Chinese media, and then occasionally I like filter a bit to Facebook and to Instagram and call it a day. It's too much. Social media is too much. You need a full-time, you need to like either a full-time social media assistant or you just have to give up on it. You can't actually manage it. And if you do manage your social media full-time and you actually get things out on all the platforms, then when do you have time to do your art?
All the books now they say don't spend too much time doing social media and get away from your art because you need it, but like don't become this awesome and we end up being these awesome we all become these great marketers and we all learn all these things. I can name like 20 things I've learned because I just had to learn it, you know. And I'm thinking if I wasn't trying to do this other thing, I would have never learned any of that. So it's like
Totally.
it's catch 22, I guess.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And it's just, it sucks you in. You have to know your limit. So I just sort of do the bare minimum and try and keep focused on what I really want to do, which is create new songs, right? Develop them, spend time with them.
Yes, exactly.
So I guess the other thing to say is that if people want to find me on the few social media outlets that I actually, or social media platforms that I actually maintain, they can find me on Facebook and on Instagram. And of course, I have a website, emberswift.com, but both of the other two are just, my handle is just Ember Swift, all one word. And if people are tuning in from Asia, then they can find me with my English name or a combo of my English and Chinese name, which is Ziyu. And that's, of course, unintelligible to those who don't speak Chinese. But for those who do speak Chinese, I'll explain. It's the 孩子的子, and then the yu is 玉石的玉. 孩子 means child, and 玉石 means jade.
I
But
wonder what that was
it,
you said.
my name doesn't mean jade child. It doesn't mean that. It's just it's to explain where the characters come from. But jade is the second half of my name. The first half, 子, it means like it means sort of for lack of a better, to just condense it down, it sort of means fresh beginning or source and or the roots of something. So when you say 子玉, you could put them together and say it means the source of jade or the beginnings of jade or something, but it doesn't really mean that. In Chinese names, each character is one separate thing. So one means source, one means jade. And I really like that. The idea of a new beginning and the old thing, which is jade. That's my short answer, but that word is really hard to define, actually.
I think maybe even our Spotify here you have the Chinese version of the album, and then I think that's on there.
Yeah, yeah. I have the Chinese version of my name on both on the Spotify, but also on almost all my new releases have both names because I wonder how many people from Asia would actually seek them out on the Western platforms. So I made sure that both names are there.
So yeah, but you're easy to find on Spotify, and I'm sure you're on. Like I said, I'm gonna look up TikTok, but I'm sure you're on TikTok as well. I guess I have to make a video to do that.
Oh,
So
that's to find me as background music. Oh, that's cool.
yeah. So here we go. I'm gonna make one right now. We're gonna make one. 15-second Ember Swift interview video real fast here, and then we're gonna see if we can put your song on there. What
Okay.
song should we promote? What's the one you think is the best Ember Swift song?
I don't know. I can't choose a best. Just randomly choose one. It's okay.
Castaway.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Phew. I'm glad to know that some of my new stuff is available.
Yep, it's on there. So
Good to
yes,
know. Yes. Feel free to use any song you would ever like to use.
you're all over the TikTok. Fantastic. Well, all
Well, thanks
right.
so much for doing this interview.
I appreciate you too. It's fantastic. Like I said, I've been kind of following your career for a long time, and so yeah, your career is real inspiring to people.
Okay, well, have a great weekend and really nice to reconnect, Doug.
Yeah, you too. Thanks again.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Today's Lunch with Doug podcast is produced by the Music Exerbia Project and made possible by these great businesses. The Second Edition shop located at 500 East Cherry Street in fabulous Nevada, Missouri. Karen McNair, the friendly neighborhood nutritionist, at 269-267-4644. The Harry Frog Graphics at 150 North Commercial, or call them at 417-381-1077. The Boutique Marketplace, located at 500 East Cherry Street in Nevada, Missouri. The Nevada Coin at 123 East Cherry Street in Nevada, Missouri. The Gamers Fusion, 617 East Cherry Street in Nevada, Missouri. The Craft Tea, find them on Food Truck Pub or on Facebook. The Impact Graphics at 14144 East Highway 54 or call them at 417-283-2056. The Nevada Tobacco and Liquor Store at 125 West Cherry Street on the south side of the Nevada Square. And coming soon, the Red Cherry Alley at 125 West Cherry Street in fantastic Nevada, Missouri.